Appears the Genshin VAs have once again f***ed around, and now they are finding out. It somehow got worse again. They got fired, they got replaced, and guess what, guys? Now, in classic fashion, they are all playing victim. Let's get into it.
Video game voice actor strike is finally over. Yeah, that thing. The official SAG-AFTRA strike. The one that got dragged on longer than some people's entire gacha content creation careers.
True.
It is done, settled, wrapped, signed, and filed away like a group project you forgot was due. And you would think that would be the end of it. Time to move on. Lessons learned. Everybody shakes their hands and logs off. But no, apparently, this has only made certain voice actors even more mad. You know the ones. The same handful who took this entire thing and turned it into a public performance about industry reform.
Kayla Mills and Corinna Butger, I will be shocked if they ever get work again. The two biggest dumbasses on the planet.
While low-key farming Twitter clout, they are reportedly seething. And not like the low-level simmering, we are talking full boil.
Side note, has this character, Cypher, that's her name, right? Cypher? Have those people gotten a hold of this model yet? Do you know what I'm trying to say here? Okay, yo, post that shit in the Discord.
Why? Because after all the posturing, all the grandstanding, the spicy callouts, it kind of, didn't go anywhere. Not only did the movement fail to change the system, it kind of torched their own reputations on the way out. And that is not just internet drama. We are talking real career damage here. People now look at the English voice acting scene and see a circus, which sucks.
Yeah. They're entitled fucking brats. These people actually think that voice acting is hard, just like streamers want to pretend that streaming is hard. It's a fucking blessing that we're not working a 9-to-5 construction job. You go to your job and you talk. You go to your job and you play video games. No one's gonna feel bad for you. You have been blessed with a life that is desired by everyone. No one is gonna feel bad for you at all. Enjoy it while you can. If you ever lose it, understand it, because it ain't that hard to begin with. If I ever get replaced by an AI bot, I fucking get it, because I'll be real, I'd rather watch AI Bigfoot over any other streamer regardless. However, I'll enjoy this ride while I can and not be a massive bitch about it.
Because there are good people in the industry, but when your loudest voices spend a year cosplaying as labor revolutionaries without actually being part of the revolution, yeah, that is how you get clowned. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room, the so-called Genshin strike. You see, the real strike started in July 2024. SAG-AFTRA stepped up to demand better pay and protection from AI voice cloning. That is the union. That is the legit movement. It makes sense. No one wants to be replaced by a Siri with emotional range, but somewhere along the way, a side group, mostly freelancers tied to Genshin, Hoyoverse games, and a few other titles, decided they were gonna launch their own strike. Except, they weren't officially part of SAG-AFTRA. They weren't even bound by the strike terms. It was more like a loud, awkward boycott masquerading as labor solidarity. They dressed it up in all the right buzzwords. AI threat, standing with workers, no choice. But once people
Anybody who disagrees and is against us is transphobic, homophobic, Nazi, racist, woman beater. I've been called them all, man. They made it look so good. And then you realize it's just a bunch of spoiled brats holding out for a couple perks.
Started digging into the details, it turns out a lot of that was just straight up bullshit. Like this wasn't a union-backed action. It wasn't organized. There were no negotiations. It was just people piggybacking off the optics of a real strike.
And a shame to all those voice actors who are going to claim that they were innocent when they were withholding information, where everybody would have known what the strike was actually about if they looked into it. And I'm sure you would have. If you were to quit your job for 10 fucking months, there's no way you didn't know why people were striking when it was that important to you. There's no way. So to all y'all who are doing it, lying by omission or deceiving by omission, you're just as guilty as everybody else. There are no good apples in this situation. There's barely any good eggs. This was a very, very stinky situation.
Push their own narratives. And the worst part, that confusion worked, at least for a little while. They blurred the line between official strike and personal protest so effectively that even fans didn't know what was real anymore. The whole thing became this weird PR theater, with the audience stuck figuring out whether they're watching a serious labor movement or a...
I think it's a shame that it took 7 months for anybody to actually understand what was actually going on. Because even I was trying to help out the voice actors, because when I see someone in need, I try to help. And then I have them on my podcast, and I help them not once, not twice, but 3 fucking times. And then they say anybody who interacts with Tectone is getting blacklisted when I tried to help their fucking movement. It's ridiculous. And that's when I was like, okay, what's really going on here?
poorly written side quest.
Because when people are afraid of my involvement, I always think, oh, they're hiding something. Because otherwise, I'm very good at bringing the truth to light. But people know that I smell a rat very quickly.
So around March, the voice actor for Kanich finally got replaced, which,
oh yeah,
I mean, yeah, that is what happens when you don't show up to work for 6 months. Studios still gotta hit their deadlines. Players still expect new content. Nobody's gonna pause a game patch just to accommodate to your personal protest. And then enter Jacob Takanashi, a non-union Japanese VA. And here's the twist, he actually did the job. There is no drama, at least not from his part. He just delivered the lines. Wild concept, right? Except apparently, that was enough to kick off a full-blown meltdown. Jacob got absolutely dogpiled by his colleagues, and I use that word really loosely because this wasn't an industry critique. It was a full-blown character assassination.
Oh, yes,
he got
it was.
called a scab, a clout chaser, like he's some kind of villain for accepting freelance work. And yeah, some of that came from recognizable names. Someone like Kaylee Millis, who went on a rampage crashing out on Twitter, which is just cartoonishly dramatic. Other VAs were talking blacklist, gatekeeping future jobs, and I don't know who needs to hear this, but if your moral crusade involves bullying a guy just trying to pay rent, you have already lost the plot. The most generous interpretation here is that people got emotionally attached to—
It's way worse. Bullying a guy who's just trying to pay rent by doing the exact same thing that all y'all are doing. That's why it's even worse, because all of them are already doing the same shit they were criticizing him for.
a cause and lashed out at the nearest—
especially Corinna Buttlicker. What a stupid ass nickname.
available scapegoat. How about the less generous read? They were just pissed someone else took a job they thought they could gatekeep forever.
Yes,
and that is when
they
the whole
were.
facade really started to fall apart.
They
Because
were
once people
big
saw how
mad.
Jacob was being treated, something clicked. Like, wait a second, who are the bad guys here? Suddenly, the tone shifted. The sympathy that was barely holding together snapped. The strike stopped looking like activism and started reading like Mean Girls with microphones. And then
Yep.
came in Karina.
Oh my goodness!
And if you thought the optics were bad before, she somehow made it worse. Karina Botger, Paimon's VA, started just saying the quiet part out loud. First, she kinda slipped and admitted that AI protection wasn't even the real issue. All that talk about
Yep.
ethics and future-proofing? Yeah. Turns out
Never
the main
existed.
goal was to get more companies signed with SAG-AFTRA. And if
Yep.
you don't understand what that means, it means more contracts, more money, more control. Happy! She even called YouTubers stupid and said the players were too dumb to understand.
So it was a bunch of VAs who were stuck in SAG-AFTRA that only allows you to work on union type games that are paying upwards of $4,000 to get into this union, and then limiting the amount of career work that they can get by 80%. Yeah, it's stupid as fuck. It was a bunch of scummy ass union actors trying to get people to be fucked, just as fucked as the rest of them. And I'm very glad it didn't work.
Labor politics. Just straight up said it. No filter and like, I don't know. Maybe save that energy for your group chats. Because nothing says, we are the good guys. Like insulting the people whose support you desperately need. That
Yep.
video alone shattered whatever was left in the illusion. Suddenly, it wasn't about protecting art or fighting automation. It was about leverage, money, union reach. And instead of owning that, they tried to hide it under layers of moral grandstanding. But once the curtain got pulled back, all that was left was a mess of entitlement and very public egos. And just when you thought the script couldn't flip any harder, Joe showed up. Now for those unfamiliar, Joe is an actual working VA with union experience, a decent resume, and more importantly, no interest in playing Twitter cosplay revolutionary. He put out a video that honestly felt like the adult walking into a room full of toddlers. He basically confirmed what every—
Well, even that video was a little bit shitty, right? Like I had to proof watch that video and correct like 17 instances of misinformation. But there was some good nuggets that we were able to pick up from that. But there was still, you know, it was still a pretty sloppy vid.
everyone was already suspecting. 1. The AI stuff already covered. Existing union contracts already had language in place about synthetic voice use. So the "we are protecting the future" angle? Yeah, that was a nothing burger. Just a big scary buzzword to dress up a labor negotiation.
Yep.
2. This wasn't even an official strike. The people refusing to work for Genshin weren't part of the broader legitimate SAG-AFTRA video game strike. They were doing their own thing. Basically a voluntary boycott they tried to rebrand as some righteous act of solidarity. And 3, this is the big one, Joe flat out said that part of the reason they framed it like an official strike was to pressure other VAs into joining them, like psychologically cornering people into quitting
I
their
told
jobs,
everybody.
hoping that enough bodies on the floor would force Hoyoverse to cave, which, spoiler alert, they didn't. Hoyoverse didn't even blink. They
Good.
just recasted them and moved on. The boycott was
It's literally a voice, bro. Do you know how easy it is to find somebody else to fucking talk? Especially the English VAs. Like, there's maybe like 5 iconic voices, maybe. Bro, just get somebody else to talk. Everybody else on Earth can already do that shit. Sure, some people can talk better than others, but it's really not that hard, and you should understand how fragile that career field is, and just do what you can while you can.
Loud online, but operationally, it was a speed bump. So what started as a dramatic call to action ended up looking more like a glorified group project, where half of the group went rogue and failed the assignment and then blamed the professor. And what gets lost in all of this is that they don't represent every voice actor. I mean, far from it. They're just the loud minority. There are plenty of VAs, quiet working professionals, who just wants to do.
Well, good news is all the loud minorities are currently getting deported. Sorry, guys.
Do their jobs, who aren't terminally online, who aren't trying to weaponize a boycott for clout. And some of those folks, they've been caught in the crossfire, like the VA for Venti. From what has been reported, she wanted to keep working, but apparently SAG-AFTRA was sending her threatening letters to fall in line. Imagine that. You are trying to honor your commitments to a role you care about, and your own union's leaning on you like you're the villain for not quitting.
Not a good look, guys.
Not everyone was on board with this collective refusal, and the fallout from this whole situation isn't just memes and drama threads. It is a fractured community where some people got silenced just for trying to work. But one day, out of the blue, Mugen drops the receipts. Not a vague trust me bro situation, but actual leaked DMs from what is allegedly the negotiation committee running this whole circus. And honestly, it was like peeling back the drywall and finding black mold behind the wall. First off, the arrogance. These people really believe that they're the main characters, messaging each other about how they were in control, how they would rather drag this out longer, and how the end of the strike was too soon because not enough damage had been done. Literal quotes that sound like actual evil people. They didn't just want leverage, they wanted pain.
I don't want peace. I want problems, always.
Other VAs losing work, other actors getting recast, collateral damage. Because when you're convinced your ideology is noble, everyone else becomes expendable. And then comes the blacklisting talk. Yeah, you heard that right. These people who claim to be fighting for fairness were openly discussing creating a do not hire list, a full-on blacklist of non-union actors they would quietly circulate to studios, which, by the way, is completely illegal under the labor law. But sure, tell me more about fairness and solidarity while you are secretly organized.
I have a hot take. I think these voice actors need to shut their fucking mouth and do their jobs. Unless they're talking while they're doing their jobs. And then they can talk. But behind the scenes and Twitter posting, they're pieces of shit, absolutely. A bunch of spoiled fucking brats who blew up because they got lucky and that's it.
Using a blacklist. Now you would think that after these DMs got leaked, they would issue some kind of statement or at least try to explain. Nah, they went for the crybaby speed run. They tried to mass report Mugen's video for privacy violations because,
oh man, this guy exposed the consequences of my own actions. Officer, take him away, quick, he's transphobic, he's a Nazi!
Apparently screenshots of people planning to blacklist others are a violation of their privacy. Right, like Mugen hacked the Pentagon instead of reading your Discord meltdowns. They really try to make the you exposed my bad behavior sound like a human rights issue. So now the dust has settled, right? The strike is over, and what did they gain? Nothing. No massive changes, no sweeping union mandates, no we did it internet.
Yeah, they just gained a whole shit ton of negative PR. Deserved, by the way.
Moment. They threw tantrums online for a year, pressured fellow voice actors into quitting their jobs, harassed newcomers, and created enough bad PR to make the entire English VA scene look like it's run by children with Twitter accounts. And now they're acting like this was the plan all along. Sure, just like the Titanic was supposed to be a submarine, am I right? The damage though, it was very real. Studios now see the English voice acting community as unstable, risky. Why bother hiring Western VAs if it means stepping into a minefield of social media threats, strikes that aren't strikes, and group chats plotting the blacklist? And right on cue, Kaylee Millis returned to the spotlight to somehow make things worse. She got community noted for enabling drama tubers and making people unsafe, which is hilarious considering she was one of the loudest voices attacking Jacob Takanashi earlier in the year. This is the same guy who publicly mocked Jacob Takanashi's finances, insinuating that he wasn't the breadwinner and that his wife pays the bills. Because apparently, when your career is built on moral superiority, personal jobs at someone's household income are fair game. And finally, when Mugen dropped all this, some VAs tried to go after him by saying he is not even a journalist, as if the only people allowed to comment on public controversies are corporate mouthpieces with journalism degrees. It's that classic move, gatekeeping basic observation. You don't need a press badge to point out that the house is on fire. So ding dong, welcome to the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. Guess who is confirmed to be out? It is official. Both Karina Botger and Kaylee Millis are gone. Like officially. Like not a drink drill. The Genshin
Yep.
Impact version 5.7
Bop
update has
it.
confirmed the recasting in their Hoyo lap post,
Bop
with
it.
Paimon's new voice already embedded in the pre-download files and Kaching's new voice line set to roll.
Oh, and apparently there's more from after this video when this was made. Kaylee Millis is saying, last week I was informed that audio recasters are Ching due to production schedule. I know people will speculate that this is the official sole reason I was given. I've been very clear that it was absolutely willing and enthusiastic to return at any point if AI protections could be provided. AI protections were already provided. Only dumbasses are believing your shit. You are full of crap, brother.
Out, marking a definitive
Yep.
shift by Hoyoverse. That is not
Bye.
some Reddit cope or a blurry audio guesswork. It's in the files. It is done. It is cooked. They're cooked. And the response? People are celebrating, like full-on fireworks level celebration. Even folks who once claimed to like Paimon's voice were doing a little jig on the sidewalk. Comments under the leaks were literally clowning on these VAs. I mean, harsh, right?
Deserved.
But this community has had months of pent-up energy from Karina's Twitter rants, outbursts, and her whole "you are too dumb to understand unions." So yeah, it exploded.
They're autistic Spurgfest. Okay, hope that helps. She's retarded. And she can't help it because she's so fucking dumb. She actually thought that she was spitting facts, when in reality, she was just making herself look even more like a jackass.
So now let's talk about how Karina left. According to her, she stepped away, totally voluntarily. Nothing weird going on.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, she stepped away, guys. Yeah.
Here, folks, except something kind of breaks that
For
whole
sure.
story. You see, the new Paimon
For
voice lines
sure.
were ready 16 days after Karina announced her departure, which that is not how game dev works. You don't recast the main narrator, record all her new lines, go through the QA, and shove it into the client in just 2 weeks. You just don't. That means Hoyo had already fired her way before her post dropped, probably around the same time Kanich got swapped, which was, guess what, about 2.5 months earlier. So her little exit post, that was PR spin. A last-ditch effort to make herself look noble instead of, well, fired. And honestly, that tracks. Because remember, this is someone who has been caught twisting the truth multiple times. She's got a pattern
Yeah, that video of her crashing the fuck out, Corinna said it was AI. Yeah. Of course it was, Butger.
of saying whatever makes her look like a victim, even while launching unprovoked shots at players, YouTubers, and her own colleagues. Her announcement wasn't closure, it was virtue signaling. A final, "I am not a scab, I left on my own terms" attempt at damage control, even though she was still working during the boycott. Can't have it both ways, but here we are. Oh, and she couldn't resist tossing one last grenade on the way out, claiming Hoyoverse was late on payments, even though Hoyoverse
You shouldn't crash out like that on a mentally disabled person? Oh, she's mentally disabled? Man, I couldn't tell.
reportedly
Man, that's a shock.
He helped her out with those exact payment issues before. They even hooked her up with a new agency. And her response to all that? Publicly dragging them after getting canned. Peak professionalism. And at that point, it doesn't feel like advocacy. It feels like retaliation. Just pure ego-driven salt. And what we're seeing over and over again is this same cycle. Loud voices acting recklessly, getting called out, and then spinning into some kind of moral crusade. Like their only mistake was just caring too much. But really, it is just a lack of accountability. A
Yep.
group of people who weaponized outrage until it turned back on them, and now they're surprised they got burned. Now let's talk about the Kaching side of this. The leaks listed the old VA as Kaylee Millis and the new one as anonymous. And no, that doesn't mean she was replaced by AI, calm down. It just means her new VA doesn't want her name public. And honestly, can you blame her? Imagine stepping into this role just trying to do your job and instantly getting dogpiled by a bunch of terminally
Yep,
online
that's
union
facts.
loyalists screaming about betrayal. Not to mention the clique trying to blacklist anyone who dares fill their old seat. Yeah,
Yep.
no thanks. Staying anonymous is a smart move. Not dramatic, not secretive, just self-preservation. And what this tells us is this is real. This is not just another maybe. Kaching's VA wasn't unavailable, she has been replaced. And her replacement already knows how toxic the fallout can be.
Seeing him miss that parry like 8 times in a row made me want to vomit.
Which says everything. Now, a lot of people originally doubted that Paimon would ever get recast. I mean, she is Paimon. She talks more than the Traveler. Some people joke that she is the Traveler. She is at 90% of the game's dialogue. But here's the thing. Recasting doesn't mean retroactively re-recording everything. Most studios don't go back and Frankenstein the whole script. They just bring in a new voice for future lines moving forward. So if you're worried about tonal whiplash, yeah, it'll happen. But also, who cares? You will get used to it anyway. What matters more is what this signals. Because if Hoyoverse is comfortable replacing Paimon, the literal mascot of the franchise, then nobody is untouchable. No one is safe.
That is really lame because I really want Corinna's voice removed from everything. Because that's what I want them to remove all old Paimon and replace with a new VA. That'd be so nice.
This is the voice of Genshin, like narratively embedded. If they're pulling the trigger on her, everyone's job just became provisional. It doesn't matter if you're fan favorite, it doesn't matter how iconic you think your voice lines are. If you make enough noise and enough people want you gone, Hoyo clearly has no problem replacing you. And some people are already taking guesses on who's next. Sakura's VA has been, let's say, unfiltered. She has lashed out at fans, starting fights on social media, and generally treating her platform like a personal venting diary. And then there's Candice VA, who, by the way, went on a 4-page unhinged monologue on Blue Sky, calling people names, dragging the community, and literally writing F Hoyoverse in plain English.
Oh
She
my
even
God.
suggested that maybe Hoyoverse should just recast her. And hey, sometimes you get what you wish for. So if a new VA pops up for the older characters, yeah, we have seen that movie before. We have played these games before. Now some actual good news. Yes, we did get a W in all
Oh, is this a Zenless Zone Zero quest where like they're supposed to pretend this character's gonna die, but everything ends up okay?
of this. Zach Aguilar and Sarah Miller, aka Aether and Lumine, are both confirmed to be returning. Zach even posted a very respectful thank you to Hoyoverse and their team. No drama, no vague posting, just professionalism. Weird how rare that feels right now. And yes, the voice of Venti is reportedly returning as well. This is the same Erica who spoke out against the Union clique, and let's be honest, probably had more backbone than most of the others combined. And you know what? Good. Let the people who didn't burn every bridge come back. Let the ones who actually cared about working keep working. So there's the part where I would normally say, hopefully
Oh, with the power of friendship, they got revived. Okay, great. I can skip this whole story now.
lessons were learned, but I think we all know better. The people who try to bully the industry into submission, smeared their co-workers, lied to the public, and then pull the identity card when they got called out, they will never admit they messed up. They will go right back into vague posting, right back
Man, I can't believe the main character didn't die in a Hoyoverse game. That's shocking.
into playing victim, and
Yeah, but Himiko died in 2017, so they'll do it again, right, guys?
right back into convincing themselves that everyone else is the problem. But the rest of the industry isn't waiting for them. Hoyoverse is moving on. Fans are moving on. Studios are looking for talent that wants to work. And if you're someone who just wants to hear your favorite characters again without walking into another social media war zone, you are probably feeling a little relieved right now. Because at the end of the day, people don't want drama. They just want to hear their characters get
It is nice, but I want total removal of all old VAs, and I want all of their lines re-recorded. I require that. I want total and complete replacement from the ground up. I don't want to hear old Paimon ever again. Somebody download a mod. Somebody make a fucking mod and replace all old Paimon. I would play the fuck out of that.